Happy Tech Fair Day, everyone! Thank you for joining us for our first ever Carroll Center for the Blind virtual technology fair. My name is Heather Thomas. I'm an Accessibility Services Associate at the Carroll Center. I work for Bruce Howell, who is the Accessibility Services Manager in the Accessibility Services Department. Bruce will be present for the question and answer session related to this presentation. This session is called Taking the Mystery Out of PDF Accessibility and is geared toward JAWS and NVDA for Windows users. The purpose of this presentation is to explore some key things that need to be in place in order for a PDF file to actually be accessible, to appreciate how your screen reader compensates for certain inaccessible PDF files, and to share some strategies for reading and navigating PDF files with varying degrees of accessibility. Today's topics include an overall introduction, what is an accessible PDF file, categories of PDF files, reading and navigating a PDF file with JAWS or NVDA, and a demonstration of interacting with 3 different sample PDF files. Introduction. What is a PDF file? PDF stands for Portable Document Format. PDF is what is sometimes called a destination file format, meaning documents are created in some other application, like perhaps Word, PowerPoint, or InDesign, and are then converted to PDF. Adobe Acrobat Pro most often is used to fine-tune the PDF, including remediating or fixing for accessibility. We're not opening up Adobe Acrobat Pro and creating a PDF from scratch. So why are PDF files so prevalent? With PDF, the idea is that a document of a single file type can be posted or otherwise shared, and it doesn't matter if I have a Mac and you have a PC, maybe someone else is using a tablet, and another person wants to print out the PDF to have a print copy. We can all access the same document. Are PDF files accessible? Many moons ago, PDF files presented some serious challenges for screen reader users. Fast forward to today, and it is possible to create PDF files that are accessible and usable for individuals with disabilities who use assistive technology like screen readers. But it takes someone with the tools, knowledge, and time to produce an accessible PDF. PDF accessibility, as you know, affects screen reader users. PDF accessibility addresses the needs of users who are blind or visually impaired, but also individuals with other types of disabilities as well. What regulations and guidelines are applicable to PDF accessibility? PDF/UA, or Portable Document Format/Universal Accessibility, is an international standard for PDF accessibility. This includes a set of specific criteria that must be met in order to be considered an accessible PDF file. Universal accessibility of PDF files is the idea that everyone should be equally able to independently access and use the information contained within a PDF document. There is also a list of PDF techniques for WCAG or Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.0 or 2.1 that's available as a resource that maps the WCAG success criteria that applies to web pages to PDF accessibility. What is an accessible PDF file? And by extension, what is an inaccessible PDF file? It's the opposite of the items I'm about to mention. An accessible PDF file must contain actual text. Sometimes this is called searchable text. In other words, it's not a scanned image. In order for a PDF file to be accessible, security does not block screen reader access to the file. Even if the producer of the PDF file wants to apply a certain amount of security to the document, you have to go pretty far out of your way to block screen reader access. The option is actually labeled really well within Adobe Acrobat Pro. So hopefully this prevents people from doing this. Accessible PDF files must contain correct tags, which of course begs the question, what on earth are tags? Tags are what identify the various elements within the document, such as headings, paragraphs, lists, links, forms, figures or images, and tables, along with table headers, etc. Tags can be created, changed, or moved in Adobe Acrobat Pro as needed. PDF tags are similar, at least in concept, to HTML tags on web pages. You cannot access the actual tags in the free Adobe Acrobat Reader program, but they nonetheless exist behind the scenes and affect the structure of the document in much the same way that HTML tags control the structure of a web page, even though on a web page, the user does not quote-unquote see those HTML tags. In order for a PDF file to be accessible, the reading order needs to be correct. The tags that I just mentioned need to be arranged in a logical reading order. You may have encountered PDF files where, sure, there's text there, but the reading order doesn't make any sense at all. In an accessible PDF file, links and form fields are keyboard focusable. You should be able to press the Tab key to move to a link or a form field. Screen reader users should also be able to list the links in the document. It is possible for a link in a PDF file to be clickable with the mouse and yet not actionable with the keyboard. This would need to be fixed. Accessible PDF files have a correct tab order. When you do press the Tab key to move focus to the next link or form field, focus should move to each next link or form field in a logical order. Accessible PDF files must have the correct language set. This is true for the overall document language and also for the language of specific passages of text, perhaps in a document that has multiple languages in it. If the text is written in English, then it should be spoken in English by your screen reader. If the text is written in Spanish, then it should be read by a Spanish synthesizer and voice by your screen reader. If it's an unsupported language, that's when you might hear announcements from JAWS of Russian or Chinese. In accessible PDF files, the title of the document should appear in the title bar. It's actually a requirement that the title of the document, not the file name, be displayed in the title bar. It's also helpful, although perhaps not explicitly required, if that title is appropriate for the document and is actually descriptive. In other words, is it clear what this document is based on the title? Headings and lists. Any text that is formatted to look visually like a heading or a list should be actually tagged as a heading or a list, so that screen reader users can identify those passages of text as headings or lists. That's meaningful information. Visually, headings are often formatted to have bigger, bolder font and possibly a different color than surrounding text to set it apart. That alone does not make it a heading. Again, it needs to be tagged as a heading. Lists are items that are one after the other after the other. I have seen some PDF files where lists are present, yet they don't actually have numbers or bullets. Numbers for ordered lists, bullets for unordered lists. But the visual presentation still dictates that it's a list. So those elements should also be tagged as a list. So again, your screen reader will identify them as a list. That way you can also use screen reader commands to gain an understanding of the structure of the document, move to those elements, and also move past those elements if you want. The next item is bookmarks. Bookmarks benefit sighted readers and are required for documents that are 21 or more pages. Bookmarks are kind of the sighted reader's equivalent to a screen reader user's ability to move by heading. Imagine a 21-page document or longer with no headings. It's just a giant wall of text with no ability to navigate efficiently built into it. It's not nearly as usable as a document with content that's broken up into manageable parts. In accessible PDF files, meaningful images must have alternative or alt text. Graphic 10, Graphic 12, Graphic 32, is not useful information. All meaningful graphics should have concise, descriptive alt text. Also, in an accessible PDF file, decorative images should be tagged as artifacts. Perhaps you've encountered a PDF form and JAWS says first name, underline, underline, underline. That underline should have been tagged as an artifact or background, which would cause your screen reader to ignore it. All of these items need to be true for a PDF file to be considered accessible. I've kind of lumped these together, and there are a few miscellaneous items that I've left out, but this is the majority of things that must be true in order for your PDF file to be truly accessible. Categories of PDF files. Now, this is not any sort of official categorization. I just thought about the different types of PDF files you're likely to encounter, and I lumped them into 4 different categories. And really, these categories are more of a spectrum from best case scenario to worst case scenario. Number 1, the ideal situation is that you've received a correctly tagged accessible PDF file. Number 2 is that you've received an incorrectly tagged document. So this might be a document where, yes, it contains text and it has some amount of structure, but something's off about it. And that might be something that you consider to be major or minor. It depends on the document and your goal. Number 3 is an untagged document. Now, this document contains text, but it doesn't have any markup for headings or lists or tables or anything like that. It also may or may not read in the correct order. From a practical perspective, the difference between number 2 and number 3 doesn't really matter. There are either problems with the document or there are not. Number 4, the worst case scenario, is that you've received a scanned image. Now, JAWS and NVDA have tools built into them to allow you to deal with PDF files that are scanned images. These tools perform OCR, or optical character recognition, on the image of text. Now, if you've ever used any kind of OCR tool, you know that the results are not always perfect, which is why you really never want to receive a scanned image. So you might be wondering, at what point do you find out what type of PDF file you're dealing with? And the answer is pretty much when you open the document. So one practical suggestion that I have for you is that if you receive a PDF file that is related to some sort of time-sensitive event, maybe that's a class you're taking, or a personal matter, or something related to your employment, don't wait until the last minute to open up that file and check it out. That way, if you cannot access the information you need and you're in a position where you're able to contact the sender of that file, you'll have enough time to do so. Next, we'll look at some JAWS and NVDA reading and navigating commands, and then we'll take a look at some sample documents that fit into these categories. Reading and navigating a PDF file with JAWS or NVDA in Windows. Use the free downloadable Adobe Acrobat Reader DC. Nowadays, you may be able to get away with opening and reading a PDF file in your favorite browser window. If this is a method that works for you, then I certainly don't want to discourage you from doing that. My preference is still to use Adobe Acrobat Reader DC, as I trust this product and I find it to be reliable. You'll find that many of the keyboard shortcuts are the same when reading or navigating a PDF file as for browsing a web page. You will have to learn some Adobe Acrobat Reader specific keyboard shortcuts. I will list some of these keyboard shortcuts, but there's no need to frantically try to write those down. If these keystrokes are new to you, then feel free to send me an email at heather.thomas@carroll.org, and that's spelled H as in hotel, E as in echo, A as in alpha, T as in tango, H as in hotel, E as in echo, R as in Romeo, dot, T as in tango, H as in hotel, O as in Oscar, M as in Mike, A as in alpha, S as in Sierra, at carroll.org. Carroll is CARROLL.org. And I'll send you a list of those commands. I'll start off by reviewing a few keyboard shortcuts that are unique to Adobe Reader. To go to a specific page, you can press Control, Shift, and N as in November. To move to the next page, Control Page down. To move to the previous page, Control Page up. To save a file is your typical Control S as in Sierra command. Save As is a little different than it would be in, say, Microsoft Word. For Save As, you might want to go to the File menu and choose Save As, or the command is Control Shift S as in Sierra. The dialog box that comes up is a little bit different than your traditional Save As dialog. There's a number of different ways you could deal with this dialog, but you might find it easiest to tab to and press Enter on the Choose a Different Folder button, and then the regular Save As dialog box will come up and be familiar. To find text in your PDF file, if you're a JAWS user, you'll want to make sure you're using the JAWS virtual find, which is Control, JAWS key, F as in find. To find the next occurrence of the word would be JAWS key F3 or function key 3. To find the previous occurrence of the word or phrase in the document would be Shift, JAWS key F3, function key 3. For NVDA, you would just substitute the JAWS key for the NVDA key. You'll use typical document reading and selecting commands that you might use in a Microsoft Word document. I'm not going to list all of those out. To move to the next form field or link, you'll press Tab. Previous would be Shift Tab. And you can use your typical quick navigation keys, such as F for next form field, H for next heading, L for next list, T for next table, G for next graphic, and if you want to move to the previous of these elements, you would just add the Shift key in, just like when you're browsing the web. To navigate and read in tables, you can stick with Control, Alt, and the arrow keys, which will work with both JAWS and NVDA. JAWS, of course, has some additional table layer commands, which I won't list off here. You can press JAWS key or NVDA key plus F7, which for JAWS will bring up the links list, and for NVDA will bring up the elements list, where you can access headings and form fields and other items. With JAWS, you can also list headings with JAWS key F6, or list form fields with JAWS key F5. If you have encountered a scanned image that requires OCR or optical character recognition, then JAWS users will hear an alert that says Empty Document, and a dialog box will come up that says, this document may be a scanned image, which makes it difficult or impossible for JAWS to read without first scanning the document with OCR. Would you like JAWS to OCR the document now? Focus will be on the Yes button, so you can just press Enter, or you could press Alt-Y to activate the Yes button. JAWS will indicate when OCR has started, and when it's finished, the recognized text will come up in the results viewer, and you can use typical reading commands to read through. Starting with JAWS 2021, there will be an option called Open in Word that will be a link available in the results viewer. I'll be using JAWS 2020, so you won't see that option. For JAWS 2020 and below, if you want to retain the text that comes up in the results viewer, you'll need to select and copy the text and then paste it somewhere, maybe a Word document or something. If you're an NVDA user, then you'll also hear an alert that says Empty Document, and then it will say this document appears to be empty. It may be a scanned image that needs OCR, or it may be a malformed document. So then you'll press NVDA and the letter R as in Romeo. NVDA will indicate when it's recognizing, and when it's finished it will say Result Document, and you can use typical reading commands to read through that recognized text. Once you've reached the end of that page, you'll press Control Page down to go to the next page. NVDA will most likely report malformed document, and you'll press the NVDA and then R as in Romeo again. In terms of forms, if you are not using Auto Forms mode in JAWS and you need to manually turn Forms mode on, you can do so by pressing Enter. To exit Forms mode in JAWS, for desktop layout, you'll press the plus key and the number pad, and for laptop layout, you'll press caps lock key plus the semicolon. Sometimes you can also press Escape. There is a known issue with JAWS related to checkboxes in forms, where if you're on a checkbox and you've interacted with that checkbox, you won't be able to arrow away from the checkbox. You'll need to tab or shift tab away from that checkbox. That does not happen with NVDA. And if you're using NVDA to access a PDF form, you'll need to remember how to toggle browse mode and focus mode, which is by pressing the NVDA key plus the spacebar. Those are the basic keyboard shortcuts you'll need to navigate and interact with most any PDF file you encounter. Let's take a look at some sample PDF files. I want to show you a sample PDF file that is an accessible PDF file. In all my demonstrations today, I will be using JAWS 2020, and I will choose to open my PDF files from within Adobe Acrobat Reader DC. I'm going to press JAWS key T to read my title bar.
Title is Adobe Acrobat Reader DC.
And I'm in Adobe Acrobat Reader DC, so I'm going to press Control O as in open to bring up the open dialog.
Control O. Open dialog. File name : edit combo. To set the value, use the arrow keys or type the value Alt+N.
Focus is in the file name field of the open dialog, and I've actually copied the file I want to open to my clipboard, so I'm just going to press Control V as in Victor to paste.
Pasted from clipboard.
And then I'll read my current line by pressing JAWS key up arrow.
Quote C : /users /header /Carroll Center Dropbox /Heather Thomas /Tech Fair Presentation /sample PDF files /guidance for congregate care.pdf quote.
This particular file just has information related to COVID-19. I'm going to press Enter now to activate the default button in the open dialog, which is the open button.
Enter. Congregate Care Programs Heading Level 1. Page has 12 headings and 11 links. Heading Level 1 Congregate Care Programs. Heading Level 1 2019 Novel Coronavirus Left Parent COVID-19 Right Parent Interim Guidance March 12, 2020 Intended Audience: Organizations that operate congregate care programs, which includes group homes and residential treatment programs funded, operated, licensed, and / regulated by the Department of Early Education and Care. Left Parent DEC Right Parent. Department of Children and Families Left Parent DCF Right Parent. Department of Transitional Assistance Left Parent DTA Right Parent. Department of Youth Services Left Parent DIES Right Parent. Department of Mental Health Left Parent DMH Right Parent. Department of Public Health Left Parent DPH Right Parent. The Department of Developmental Services Left Parent DDS Right Parent. Mass Services.
And I just press Control to stop it from talking. In real life, you would probably read through this entire document, and you would find that this particular document reads in the correct order. In other words, the reading order makes sense. When the document first loaded, JAWS told us that there were 12 headings and 11 links. I'm going to press Control Home to go to the top of the document.
Guidance for congregate care.pdf.
And then I'm going to press H to move to the next heading, just to explore the headings in this document, or some of them anyway. So I'm going to press H now.
Congregate Care Programs Heading Level 1.
And H again.
2019 Novel Coronavirus Left Parent COVID-19 Right Parent Interim Guidance Heading Level 1.
And H one more time.
Background Heading Level 2.
If I wanted to move to the previous heading, I would of course press Shift H. Let's explore the links in the document. We could press Tab to move to the next link, or Shift Tab to move to the previous link, or with JAWS, we could press JAWS key F7 to bring up the links list dialog. If we're using NVDA and we press NVDA key, press F7, then it would bring up the elements list, which would default to displaying links. I'm going to press JAWS key F7 now.
Links list dialog. Links list view. mass.gov/2019 coronavirus 1 of 11. To move to items, use the arrow keys.
And we already know there's 11 links in the document. If I knew the name of the link that I was looking for, I could press first letter, or I could just down arrow through the links list as well. I'll just down arrow through some of the links.
COVID-19 affected geographic area 2 of 11. EPA registered antimicrobial products for use against novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 left parent. The cause of COVID-19 right parent 3 of 11. Proper use of personal protective equipment left parent PPE right parent 4 of 11. Infection control basics, 5 of 11.
And then, of course, if I wanted to activate any of these links, I would just press enter. Sometimes when you activate a link in a PDF file, you will get a dialog box asking if you want to allow this link to be activated, in which case you would activate the allow button. That dialog box does not always come up. I do not actually want to activate any of these links, so I'm going to press escape to close the links list dialog.
Escape, background heading level 2.
Next, I will explore the lists in this document. I'm going to press Control Home first,
Guidance for congregate care.pdf.
just so that I'm starting at the top of the document, and I can press L to move to the next list, or at any point Shift L to move to the previous list. I'll press L now.
List of 3 items.
So there's a list of 3 items. I'll down arrow through those items.
Bullet COVID-19 is a respiratory virus. Current symptoms have included mild to severe respiratory illness with fever, cough, and difficulty breathing. Bullet, according to CDC, the virus is spread mainly from person to person between people who are in close contact with each other, left parent within about 6 feet, right parent. Bullet spread is from respiratory droplets produced when an infected person coughs or sneezes. List end.
And that's the end of that list. I'll keep pressing L to navigate to the next list.
List of 1 items. List of 3 items. List of 4 items. List of 3 items. List of 4 items. List of 8 items. List of 3 items. List of 2 items. List of 3 items. List of 3 items. List of 3 items, nesting level 1.
So there is a nested list contained within one of the lists in this document.
Wrapping to top, list of 3 items.
And I wrapped to the top. There's no more lists. So there are quite a few lists in this document. I happen to know that there are no graphics in this document, but I'll press G for next graphic.
There are no graphics on this page.
And JAWS confirms there's no graphics on this page. In summary, the 4 things that impact the accessibility of this particular document are that the reading order is correct, there are headings in the document, there are links that are accessible using a screen reader, and lists are marked up appropriately. Next, I'll show you a PDF file that is improperly tagged. I am back in Adobe Acrobat Reader DC, and I'm going to read my title bar by pressing JAWS key T as in title.
Title is Adobe Acrobat Reader DC.
And then I'm going to open my next sample file, which I already know is an improperly tagged file, and the only reason that I know that at this moment is because I've read through it previously. So I'm going to press Control O as in open.
Control O. Open dialog. File name : edit combo. To set the value, use the arrow keys or type the value Alt+N.
And focus is in the file name edit field. And I have the file on my clipboard, so I'm just going to paste with Control V as in Velcro or Victor.
Pasted from clipboard.
And then I'm going to read my current line with JAWS key up arrow.
Quote C : /users /header /Carroll Center Dropbox /Heather Thomas /Tech Fair Presentation /sample PDF files /self quarantine flyer.pdf quote.
And then I'm going to press enter.
Enter. Edit. Type in text. Document.
And typically when it finishes processing the document, it'll start to read it. And since it hasn't said anything in a while, I'm just going to press Control Home to go to the top of the document and kind of get a sense for if it's done. So I'm pressing Control Home now.
Self-quarantine flyer.pdf.
And then I'll just down arrow a few times just to make sure there's text here.
Coronavirus disease 2019, left parent COVID-19, right parent. 10 tips for @home quarantine or self-monitoring.
Okay, I think that it is probably done at this point. This document has a few pretty big issues with it. This document is, as you heard, 10 tips for at-home quarantine or self-monitoring. And these 10 tips should be in a numbered list. And while numbers are red, the only list that is identified by JAWS or NVDA is actually what should be a nested list for item number 6 in the list. So I'm just going to down arrow a little bit to read through by line, just to give you a sense for what's going on with this particular document.
If you have been directed to quarantine or self-monitor at home because of possible COVID-19 contact, 6. 1.
And then we hear 1.
43 graphic. 44 graphic.
Just going to keep down arrowing.
45 graphic. 46 graphic. 47 graphic. 48 graphic. 49 graphic. 50 graphic. 51 graphic.
So we've encountered quite a few graphics, one after the other, and these graphics do not have any alternative or alt text, so they're not meaningful. And you may have encountered documents like this in the past, and you start to wonder, is there actually any content beyond all these unlabeled graphics? So one hint for JAWS users specifically is that you can step past the element you're on, which right now we're on a graphic, to something else that's not a graphic, anything else that's not a graphic. So I'm going to press Shift period, which is the greater than sign, to step past this element. If I ever wanted to step before the element, I would do Shift comma, which is the less than sign. So I'm going to press the greater than sign now.
Take everyday actions.
And I've moved to something that's not a graphic. So there is in fact content beyond all of those unlabeled graphics. Now to compare this with NVDA, if you're an NVDA user, NVDA would have ignored all of these unlabeled graphics by default, so you would not have heard any of them. If you press G for graphic, it would have said that there's no graphics. I'm going to down arrow from here.
To prevent the spread of germs. List of 3 items.
And here's a list of 3 items.
X. Clean your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds or an alcohol-based hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. X.
The X that's announced is actually the bullet that's associated with each of these list items.
Cover your cough/sneeze. X. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. List end.
And that's the end of that list. In thinking about lists, we know that this document is 10 tips for at-home quarantine or self-monitoring, and we would hope that those 10 items are in a list themselves, but they're actually not. I'm going to go back up to the top of the document with Control Home.
Self-quarantine flyer.pdf.
And I'm going to press L for list.
List of 3 items.
And I have that list of 3 items. Let me just down arrow to see what are the 3 items.
X. Clean your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds or an alcohol-based hand.
So if that sounds familiar, this is actually the list that we just heard. So I'm going to skip past it rather than going through all of those items again. I'm going to press L again for next list.
Wrapping the top list of 3 items.
So the only occurrence of a list in this document is actually what should be a nested list. I'm going to go back to the top of the document again with Control Home.
Self-quarantine flyer.pdf.
I want to mention one other thing about the graphics in this particular document. If you're trying to access this document using JAWS, I'm going to list the graphics in the document just to give you a sense of how many unlabeled graphics are actually in this document. So I'm going to press Control JAWS key G as in graphic to list the graphics.
Select the graphic dialog. List 1, list view 7, 1 of 277. To move to items, use the arrow keys.
So notice it said 1 of 277. So there are 277 unlabeled graphics in this particular file. So any meaningful graphic should have alternative or alt text, and any decorative graphic should be tagged as what's called in a PDF file an artifact or background so that JAWS would ignore it. I'm going to hit Escape to close this dialog.
Escape document.
Next, I want to just investigate and see if there are any headings in this document. So I'm going to press H for next heading.
There are no headings on this page.
And there's no headings on this page. This is only a 1-page document, so the impact of having no headings is probably not as great as if this were a 500-page document or a 20-page document. Nonetheless, I probably would have expected maybe the title of the document at the top to be a heading 1. The one last thing that I'd like to show you is that there is text in this document which seems like it should be an active link, but it's not. In order to get there, I'm going to perform a JAWS find. And so I'm going to press Control, JAWS key, F as in find. If you're using NVDA, it would be the same exact command.
JAWS find dialog. Find what : edit combo. To set the value, use the arrow keys or type the value Alt+W.
And this sentence contains the words more information. So I'm going to type in more
MORE space
info
INFO
and press enter.
enter. For more information, visit
And I'm going to down arrow from there.
mass.gov/COVID-19.
So I would expect that mass.gov/COVID-19 would be a link, but JAWS didn't announce that it was a link because it's not tagged as a link. Sometimes you'll encounter documents that have links that are clickable with the mouse, but JAWS or NVDA still won't be able to recognize them as links. In this case, mass.gov/COVID-19 is just text, whether you're using the mouse or whether you're using JAWS. It was not tagged as a link for anyone, and it probably should be. To summarize, this document has issues with many unlabeled graphics, improperly tagged lists, improperly recognized bullets, there's no headings, and there's text that should probably be tagged as a link. Also, if you were to read through this entire document, you would discover that the reading order is incorrect. So while this document contains text, it's not a scanned image, and it does have tags, it's not properly tagged. Next, I'll show you a sample of a PDF file that's a scanned image. So I'm going to read my title bar first, and I'm using JAWS. I'm going to press JAWS key, T as in title.
Title is Adobe Acrobat Reader DC.
And then I'm going to press Control O to bring up the open dialog.
Control O. Open dialog. File name : edit combo. To set the value, use the arrow keys or type the value Alt+N.
And I actually copied the file to my clipboard, so I'm going to press Control V to paste in the file name field.
Paste it from clipboard.
And then I'm going to read my current line with JAWS key up arrow.
Quote C : /users /header /Carroll Center Dropbox /header Thomas /tech fair presentation /sample PDF files /Wizard of Oz.pdf quote.
And Wizard of Oz is the file I'm opening. I'm going to press enter.
Enter. /sample PDF files /Wizard of Oz.pdf quote. Have left container view recent button checked. Reading order : combo box. Infer reading order from document left parent recommended right parent 1 of 3. To change the selection, use the arrow keys Alt+R.
And I'm going to read my title bar by pressing JAWS key T, since it didn't actually tell me the window I'm in at the moment.
Title is Reading Untagged Document with Assistive Technology.
So this Reading Untagged Document with Assistive Technology dialog will come up anytime you open a file that JAWS recognizes as not containing any tags. And so it pretty much needs to go through a process to be able to read that document. I'm going to press JAWS key B to read this entire dialog.
Reading Untagged Document with Assistive Technology dialog. Group: an assistive technology like a screen reader may be running on your machine. This untagged 2-page document must be prepared for reading with assistive technology. If you are not using an assistive technology, check the quote "Do not show this dialog again" quote box below. Reading order options: group, reading order : combo box. Infer reading order from document left parent recommended right parent. Reading order : combo box. Infer reading order from document left parent recommended right parent 1 of 3. Reading order options: group, reading mode options: group, read the currently visible pages only, radio button not checked 1 of 2. Read the entire document, radio button checked 2 of 2. Reading mode options: group, do not show this dialog again. Use the settings from the reading preferences. Checkbox not checked. Start button, cancel button.
So pretty much what we know at this point is that we've encountered an untagged document. And I'm going to go with the default choice here of infer reading order from document. That's the recommended reading order. There's a couple other choices in that combo box, but I'd always recommend going with the default recommended choice first. And then I can either tab to the button called Start, or I can just press Enter. And at this point, I'm just going to press Enter.
Enter. Wizard of Oz.pdf -Adobe Acrobat Reader DC document. Alert: empty document dialog. This document may be a scanned image which makes it difficult or impossible for JAWS or Fusion to read without first scanning the document with OCR. Would you like JAWS to OCR the document now? Yes button. To activate, press spacebar. Alt+Y.
So at this point, I know that the document is a scanned image, and I need to perform OCR on it in order to be able to read it. The default button in the dialog is the Yes button, so I can just press Enter. I'll do that now.
Enter. Document. Document OCR started. The Wizard of Oz, Chapter 1: The Cyclone Dorothy lived in the midst of the great Kansas prairies, with Uncle Henry, who was a farmer, and Aunt Em, who was the farmer's wife. Their house was small. Chapter 1: wife.
And I'm just going to press Control to stop it. So I'm going to read my title bar with JAWS key T.
Title is Wizard of Oz -OCR results.
So I'm in the OCR results window, and I can use typical reading commands to read through this. If I want to retain the text, since this is JAWS 2020 that I'm using, I would need to select the text, copy it, and paste it somewhere. And when I'm finished reading, I can hit Escape to close the OCR results window. When you perform OCR on different documents, you may find that you get different results. So if you're starting with a good quality image, it's likely that your results are going to be better than if you're starting with a poor quality image or a document where the layout is complex, like perhaps in a menu where there's different columns and things are arranged differently from section to section. You may find that is difficult to understand.
Escape. Alert: empty document. Wizard of Oz.pdf Adobe Acrobat Reader DC.
If you have encountered a PDF file that is not a scanned image, but for one reason or another you would like to perform OCR on it, then if you're using JAWS, you'll press the layered keystroke, JAWS key space, you'll hear a little sound, and then let go, and then press the letter O as in Oscar, and then D as in Delta. And that will start the OCR process. And again, your results will come up in the results viewer. If you're using NVDA, then you would press NVDA R to perform OCR, and that's R as in Romeo. Thank you for attending this Taking the Mystery Out of PDF Accessibility presentation, and we hope that you'll join us for the live question and answer period. If you want to contact us, the number at the Carroll Center is 800-852-3131. Our web address is www.carroll.org, and Carroll is spelled C-A-R-R-O-L-L. And my email address is heather.thomas@carroll.org, heather.thomas@carroll.org.